Welcome to the broadcast, my fruity crumbles. We've got a lot to get through today, and yes, we are going to deep dive into the status of all of Harry's trials and tribulations, because as of this morning, today's trial dismissed. Not a good day for Henry, but he has many battles ahead, some which might go in his favour, and some which might not. So we are going to have a look at that, a fruity look at that. Sophie Edinburgh, we're going to talk about her because she is out of the kingdom on King's business. William's been up to some stuff. I also want to get back to the subject of the Little Mermaid and the Disney affair to frame that in a little bit more of a fairer context. However, before we get on to Harry, I do want to begin with the Chelsea Flower Show, because the King and Queen arrived yesterday, in addition to Catherine's pink appearance. And the Queen was absolutely beautiful in a silk dress by Fiona Clare, with green and white florals on a midnight blue. She wore pearl drop earrings to the lobes and a pair of wedgies. And while they were touring the gardens, the King told people that he was on the lookout for replacement plants because some of his plants at the Highgrove estate have been eaten by rabbits. Greedy things. The King was handsome, and they mingled with designers and gardeners and all kinds of wonderful people, including Manoj and Clive, this very elegant couple who married this morning. Congratulations, my dears. They look like I'm a pink toothbrush, I'm a blue toothbrush. Aren't they sweet? I thought they looked lovely and rather regal, and it put me in mind of my affair today and yesterday's number, because I found some old second-hand, that sari from yesterday, and this top, some bits and bobs, Indian. And that is going to be the theme of the wardrobe for this summer. I'm on the hunt and the lookout for some bargains, because the Indian clothing is so loose-fitting, cooler, joyous colour, and has a bit of sparkle and bling to it. Very elegant. So that is what I'm on the lookout. You know I get so foul-mooded when it is hot. So this summer I want to be prepared and find some cool clothing to record in. So that is what you're going to be seeing. A sprinkling of this summer. That's something for you to look forward to, isn't it? And it was a joy to see Princess Alexandra, who we spoke about in a recent broadcast. I devoted almost an entire broadcast to her life. And there she was, hobbling along, bless her, in a wonderful green scarf that was so jolly. Really nice to see all the family together, including the Michaels. Princess Michael was there in red, and the Duchess of Gloucester was wearing blue. So coordinated and complimentary and really rather lovely. Okay, so we turn to the subject of Prince Harry, and I wanted to summarise for you what's going on. I will have to refer to my notes to make sure I don't gloss over anything or leave anything out. Okay, but we're going to go into it. This morning, if you didn't hear, Justice Chamberlain delivered his ruling on Harry's bid to bring a second legal challenge against the British Home Office over his UK security arrangements. Dismissed. Refused. Now, this ruling can be appealed, so you have to bear that in mind, but it is a significant backwards step in his journey. His battle continues. He's already won the right to a full judicial review over the main decision to deny him security. Okay? But Justice Chamberlain has dismissed. This part has refused permission to apply for a judicial review to challenge the decision that he should not be able to pay privately for Met Police protection when in this country. That's what today's hearing was about and was dismissed. So, does anybody get the feeling that this big, blousy boy, this rebel without a clue, who's on a mission to todger his way into every court in the land and into British culture and shape narratives in his own image and laws to his own preference, does anybody get the feeling that he might be feeling a bit deflated this morning? Not so turgid as he todgers in, a little bit limp? Well, this renegade, his wallet certainly will be feeling a bit deflated, won't it? Not that it'll bother him with all those millions earned from Spare, those gazillions, but oh, those lawyers' fees, oh dear. No wonder they are also buddy-buddy with him, all those lawyers. Oh, they act like best friends, don't they, rather than client and lawyer. They're like best buddies, we all know why. Well, he might not have been quite so perky when he woke up this morning at Casa Montecito or the San Vicente bungalows, depending on what's to be believed, but his ego will not be as rock solid. That nose is going to be somewhat out of joint. I do wonder if the penny will ever drop that the King had Prince Harry's best interests at heart when he advised him not to get quite so carried away with all this litigious activity and taking so much umbrage. But would he listen? No. Would he listen? No. Well, we'll see if that was wise, or if the penny starts to drop. I doubt it. But also, Harry dear, what about all your suggestions that the royal household and Sir Edward Young had a personal vendetta and bias against you, and that is what influenced all their decisions with regards to this trial? Because Justice Chamberlain appears to disagree with you on this occasion. He seems to disagree that the decisions made by Ravek were something to do with a personal vendetta, and more to do with simple policy. These two proceedings that Harry lodged against the British Home Office relate to decisions made by Ravek. That stands for the Royal and VIP Executive Committee. So when we speak of Ravek, that is what it is. Decisions made by them in 2021 and 22 in relation to his requests for security and then to fund his own security. Security provided by the Met Police. Now, for those abroad, the Met Police, the Metropolitan Police, are a territorial police force responsible for law enforcement and crime prevention in Greater London. Okay, so that is the Met Police. They deal with counter-terrorism and the protection of specific people, including the monarchy. And as you may know, Harry wanted to maintain an armed squad whenever he came to Britain, whenever he deigned to grace us with a presence. Not that he's required here any longer. Well, he was told that he no longer qualified because he was not a working royal anymore. He had made that decision to leave. And yes, he did offer to pay. So we can't accuse him of trying to take the cheap way out, but that offer was declined. And this is one of the things he's arguing against. Well, you are a private individual, Harry. Are you telling me that it was not explained to you that you cannot have your bread buttered on both sides and munch away? You make your choice and you stick with it. And yes, it is a harsh, bleak choice. But you thought the grass was greener. And we all know what kind of grass we're talking about. Well, you can have as much green grass as you desire, my dear, because it's legal where you are. But the meadows and the green fields of home are denied to you unless you sort out your own arrangements, lovey. But don't expect the Met Police or the Home Office or Ravek to get involved. No, my love. Some things, believe it or not, in today's climate, are still binary, and especially with regards to law and policy. And it is policy that was at the heart of this case and Ravek's decision, as Justice Chamberlain found, because the case was dismissed on existing policies. And what kind of character is it that thinks that existing policies don't apply to them? The entitled, that's who. Entitled. Now, contrary to speculation, I am not without a heart. So yes, I do have some compassion for a man such as Harry, who did a lot of good things, a lot of embarrassing things, but also undeniably, yes, a lot of good things. Under very testing times and a very hard adolescence, and all in all for about 35 years, wasn't it? So yes, I do have compassion that he worked on behalf of us and was in the armed forces and all of this. But on the other hand, he is the one that has increased his own security risk, his own threats by his own behaviour and his decisions and his revelations. Have you not seen how he has exacerbated his personal security threat through the roof? He did that, nobody else. And he is the one that courted publicity and coverage and controversy on an epic scale. The court must deal with facts and not your feelings, Harry. It's your feelings again, isn't it? We can't all bring our feelings into a court of law. Watch Judge Judy. Don't pee on her leg and tell her it's raining. And don't feed her baloney. Because your feelings in that circumstance simply don't matter. I'm sorry. And I'll tell you better, we also don't have any information or insight into how often you would arrive on these shores and require all our well-trained police to look after you. How often would that be? You could take advantage of that privilege and be flitting over here all the time. rather than when it suits you or when it suits your tax arrangements. And while I can appreciate the fact that you offered to pay for the Met Police's assistance, why are they really required? You're not a monarch, you're the son of a monarch, you're not an heir apparent, you're diminishing on the line of succession, and you are not a head of state or anything approaching that. You are not even an ambassador for this kingdom. So why do you get the special treatment? Why would they roll the red carpet out for you and your security needs? You are a private individual. Now, this legal challenge was related to his earlier claim against the Home Office also, after he was told that he would no longer be given the same degree of security when he left. And a full hearing for this was given the go-ahead last summer and is yet to be held. A barrister for the Home Secretary previously said that Harry's offer to pay for Met Police protection was rightly dismissed because it would set an unacceptable precedent. And lawyers for the Met Police said that Ravek had been reasonable in finding that it is wrong to place officers in harm's way upon payment of a fee by a private individual. So, for those who are not aware, one of the Ravek committee members was Sir Edward Young, who you might have read about in Spare, because Harry hates him. He was the late Queen's private secretary, and Harry disparaged him and described significant tensions between the pair, and a lot of it bubbles down to this. Harry didn't know, you see, that Sir Edward was part of this committee, this Ravek committee, and was part of that decision-making process alongside other members of the royal household. He didn't like the fact that he was kept in the dark, and I'm sure that probably Papa and Big Willie knew all about it, but they never included me. I never knew. Because they didn't trust you, Harold. Trust is earned. He took decisions very personally, and these seem to have angered him, as most things do. Well, the Met Police and Justice Chamberlain seemed to indicate that they thought that the decisions taken by Ravek were reasonable and in line with existing policy. And I am now going to read out the findings from Mr. Justice Chamberlain, Jussie Chamberlain, but he's certainly not a Jussie Smollett. He is a Jussie Chamberlain, our justice. He said this morning, "In my judgment, the short answer to this point is that Ravek did not say that it would be contrary to the public interest to allow wealthy individuals to pay for any police services. It can be taken to have understood that the Police Act to which it referred expressly envisages payment for some such services. Its reasoning was narrowly confined to the protective security services that fall within its remit. Those services are different in kind from the police services provided at, for example, sporting or entertainment events, because they involve the deployment of highly trained specialist officers, of whom there are a limited number and who are required to put themselves in harm's way to protect their principles. Ravek's reasoning was that there are policy reasons why those services should not be made available for payment, even though others are. I can detect nothing that is arguably irrational in that reasoning." So, Justice Chamberlain evidently sides with Ravek, with their policy enforcement and the decisions taken thereafter. In regards to that, well, Harry's lawyers had also argued that Ravek's decision was procedurally unfair. Oh, it's so unfair! You're so unfair! Oh, yeah. Life's unfair, love. Get used to it. They argued it was procedurally unfair because their client should have been able to make representations, or have the opportunity to make representations, before Ravek's decision was taken. Well, Justice Chamberlain rejected that as well, and he said that it is not obvious why fairness demanded that one particular principal be afforded the opportunity to make formal representations on that issue. So the judge thinks it's fair. Harry and Harry's lawyers. You might find it unfair, but Justice Chamberlain says no. So that is what occurred today. And in addition to this legal challenge, just to keep you abreast of everything that's going on, we have the main judicial review to come, plus the ongoing trial with Mirror Group newspapers, which I will update you on in a second. And we're also waiting for rulings whether similar cases to the Mirror Group newspaper case can go ahead against Associated Newspapers and News Group newspapers. Exhausting, isn't it? But with regards to the Duke versus Mirror Group newspapers, last Friday was the last day reported on at the time of recording. That was day 8 of that particular hearing, where he feels that information has been gathered illegally upon him. He keeps pointing his finger at all these articles, a representative sample of articles that he claims disparaged him illegally. But Mirror Group newspapers, who I've no great love for, by the way, they keep pointing the finger right back at him quite successfully and schooling him on the provenance of these articles. For example, on Friday, they heard about another example of another article, Harry is a Chelsea fan, from 2004. This is when Chelsea Davy came into the air. This article is by Anthony Harwood, who was the Mirror's US editor, and he had been dispatched to Argentina, where Harry was holidaying with Chelsea, to cover the story. And he was trying to track down what was going on, and he tells us that he spoke to a bar owner who revealed that Harry had been there with a mystery blonde, but no one knew who it was, there was no name. Well, as it happened, it was the Daily Mail, another group of newspapers, that published an article with photographs of them in Argentina and named Chelsea Davy. And it was that article that provided Anthony Harwood of the Mirror with the details for his article that Harry's complaining about. So all he did was repeat the existing story from the Daily Mail, adding just one short quote from a student he met who said that she had danced with Prince Harry at a club. So these legal maestros of Harry seem to be dropping the ball a bit, my dear. They must do your due diligence, love. Do your due diligence. If you're going to accuse somebody of coming out with a story with gathered information unlawfully, try and check that the story didn't already exist and wasn't published the day before by a rival newspaper. You know, get your ducks in a row. This seems like something very simple. The Prince of Wales was on royal duty, and he went to see the progress that's being made in the fight against plastic pollution by London-based firm Notpla in Hackney, who have upscaled since they won an Earthshot prize in November. Yes, I remember reporting on them. How wonderful that the Prince is involved in these long-term projects that will truly make a difference. Notpla, if you remember, make takeaway food containers and cutlery using seaweed instead of plastic. This is another fine tapestry, isn't it, that you see in front of you? A tapestry that William is weaving throughout his life, and only monarchy achieves this with regards to heads of state and constitution. Only monarchy really achieves these long-term life plans. The Duke of Edinburgh Award benefited millions. The Prince's Trust they're still benefiting millions. Now with William's Earthshot Award, the benefits are incalculable, and I stand right behind them. These are not flash in the pan moments. These are lifelong tapestries that really work. Now, in yesterday's broadcast, I told you of my displeasure at Catherine apparently being disparaged during The Little Mermaid by Disney, and my displeasure at that. I also made it very clear that I was just reporting on the news and that there was no confirmation that this was so, and all we could do was hazard a guess. So I must admit, I did feel a bit contrite when I saw that so many of you were cancelling your Disney subscription. So I wanted to jump in today just to restate, I'm not backpedaling on anything, I'm not taking anything back. It's all there in the broadcast that I caveated and said all of this. But I just want to make it clear that if you decide to withdraw your subscriptions from Disney or not support them anymore, I would prefer that to be on your own investigation, your own due diligence, your own findings, and not what I am reporting from gossip and from my own volition, because I still do not see why they would have chosen the name Catherine to follow on from Diana. But I also want to frame this by saying that in the previous version of Little Mermaid, the name Diana was used. I will read to you what is actually said in the first movie. Then the prince says to Ariel, "You know, I feel really bad about not knowing your name. Maybe I could guess. Is it Mildred?" She pulls a funny face. "Okay, no. How about Diana?" "No." "Rachel?" So, yes, by chance, the names that he offers in the first movie are Mildred, then Diana, and then Rachel. Well, for this new version, they drop Rachel, they drop Mildred, but they leave Diana and bring in Catherine. So I am still highly cynical, not convinced that they were not disparaging Catherine, but in the name of fairness, yesterday the director, Rob Marshall, was asked about this, and he says, "I don't know where that came from. This is the most insane thing. People are hilarious how they just dig and find things. There's no truth to that whatsoever." So when I come to you with my opinions and my passion, you know I'm just speaking for myself. I'm not trying to encourage you to do anything or cancel anyone, and I hate cancel culture. This is why I feel a little bit uneasy about it, because I bear the weight of the responsibility, and it feels like a karmic responsibility. So that's why I wanted to come. If you watched my broadcast and acted on what I was saying yesterday by cancelling anything to do with Disney, you know, firstly, I don't want to be responsible for taking away anything you enjoy. But secondly, if you are doing that, please don't do it because of my opinion and my outrage at the rumours of Catherine's disparagement. Because I say, I might have the highest hunch about it, but I cannot say for sure that it was a disparagement. It could have just been one of those random chances. And as I stated in the broadcast, my problem was not actually with any insult towards Catherine. It was to do with an ideology, a feeling that is being pushed. And if you Google Disney and the word woke, you will see that these complaints have been happening for a very long time over the last few years. And, you know, everything from reimagining Minnie Mouse and putting her into a pantsuit instead of a dress, that didn't go down very well. Not many of their decisions of late have gone down very well. You know, people in theme parks, their staff are no longer allowed to call anyone ladies and gentlemen or boys and girls. They have to address them as hello friends or hello everybody. How silly. But, you know, it's not just Disney that's getting up to that these days, but they are one of the big boys that do that. So some of you told me in the comments that actually you'd been disappointed for them for a long time anyway. You had already cancelled. So that's your business. But I just wanted to say, please don't do any cancelling of anything because of my reaction to something. Do your own research, make up your own mind. The Duchess of Edinburgh is on official business in Iraq. This was at the request of the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office in support of the women, peace and security agenda, and to continue her work to champion the survivors of conflict-related violence. And in royal blue, she spent 2 days in Baghdad hearing about the challenges facing Iraqi women and girls and the ongoing work to protect their rights. She delivered an address at the Women's Voices First conference and visited a high school for girls. She was received by the President of Iraq and the First Lady and the Prime Minister. She attended an evening reception celebrating and connecting with Iraqi leaders, and she met with survivors. So there we have it, my dears. That's all I've got for you today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next broadcast. Have a lovely evening. Thank you for your company. Leave me a juicy comment, and if you'd like to treat me to a slice of cherry cake, my privy purse is in the description box. I thank you most sincerely. Ta-ra for now, my dears, and toodle pip.